You can probably hear tons and tons of birds. I'm in Berlin. I am just about to jump on the train to go to the airport. I missed my train, not the train, but I missed my train by 30 seconds. I think I got 20 minutes wait, so might as well chat to you guys. All right, so one of the beginner's questions to raising private finance is how do I start? Well, let's start by figuring out what you need. So what's your plan? How many houses do you want to buy? Are you going to buy and sell or buy and keep? And therefore, how much are they going to cost? What's the deposit needed? What's the fees needed? Not my train left. What's the renovation cost on average needed? And therefore, how much have you got at the moment and what is your gap? And also, how many of those houses are you going to do in a year? And therefore, that's whatever the gap is, that's your fundraising target, isn't it? Now, you can fundraise a whole bunch of different ways. You can joint venture. Obviously look into the regulations on that and make sure you're compliant, or you can borrow money and again check out all the legals in that and again make sure you're compliant. I can't give you legal advice, I can just tell you my general knowledge. Berlin people. So once you've decided, or once you've figured out what your gap is for funding, and by the way, don't worry about it, almost all of us have funding gaps, there's no doubt about it. No property investor I've ever met has always had the money to do all the deals they wanted to do. I think it's like a standard thing with property investors. So working with private finance people is just a very sensible method as long as you manage the money carefully. So once you've figured out what the gap is, now the next question is, if I can speak over the train, how many investors do I need? Well, on average, and I've had somebody give me $3,000 and I've had somebody give me 167,500. So it's both, but on average, each investor will give you £50,000. I don't mean give, I mean lend, or will transact with you on an average 50 grand. So if you want to raise $500,000, that's 10 investors. Okay, so 10 investors doesn't sound too scary, does it? Because you know the stats. Next, what are the additional stats? Where do I find them, Suze? Well, I found everybody at property events because people are interested in property. I spoke to them and then I ended up having coffees, phone calls, one-to-one meetings with them. And on average, I would have between 5 and 7 coffees, phone calls and one-to-one meetings with people before they worked with me. And on average, 1 in 10 people I met at property events had the money to invest. And 1 in 2 of those people, at least the ones that I found out anyway, 1 in 2 of those 1 in 10, do you see what I mean? 1 in 20 actually invested with me because I did the whole follow-up process. So if I need 10 investors for $500,000 and 1 in 20 people I meet at property events have the money and would be willing to work with me once I'd kind of followed my process of meeting up and talking with them 5 to 9 times, and obviously all the legal documentation, all the compliance, etc. How many people do I need to meet at property events? On average, 200. That's 5 property events. That doesn't take long, does it? So do you see the beginner's guide to, I mean, okay, I know this data because I've been doing it for years, but all you need to do is have guidance with somebody that can give you this data, give you the steps, give you the processes, and then you set a formal fundraising campaign and off you go. Right, I'm going to see if the next train's my train. See you soon.